Good evening, captive audience. Welcome. It's a wonderful Wednesday once again with Don Anderson and the vivacious Doge is great, otherwise known as Sonny Danforth. What say you, Sonny?
Hey, good evening. You know what? It's another day, and it's as Don and I were talking right before coming on. Man, stuff is happening fast. You got to keep up, keeping up. We've got winter over here in Northeast Oregon, though. I woke up today with like 6 inches of snow, but the sun was out. It was a beautiful day. Got up to 40 degrees, and but we're gonna get some more.
You know why you got up and it looked like that, Sonny? Is because, like Ronald Reagan said 40 years ago, it's morning in America.
Yeah.
It's morning in America again. So all we got was a light dusting over here on the west side. You would have laughed at the weather we had here, but it was kind of nice to see the white stuff come down for a couple of hours. So it's been nice, but it hasn't gotten the ice. That's the major threat. We haven't gotten that.
Yes. Yes. I'll tell you, to look out at the landscape, though, I'm at the base of the Blue Mountains. It is just so beautiful. Just so beautiful. I like it. So,
Yeah.
hey, winter finally arrived into a little bit lower elevation. I'm
Um,
liking it.
all right, I love it. As long as you can get to a big fireplace at home at night, I am good, and I'm not driving in it. Bet on
Right.
that. But yeah, so Sonny and I were talking earlier about just the amount of stuff coming at us, and I thought I would just open with a little historical perspective, and I think it'll also make you laugh too. I just woke up this morning and thought about I can't believe the amount of stuff, the scandalous stuff coming at us, and I just thought about the great scandals that I could remember. Right, so and some of them are just historical, but you think about Tammany Hall and what a disaster that was, and the Lindbergh baby kidnapping and what a scandal that was supposed to be the scandal of the century. And then there was Huey P. Long in Louisiana, the Clarence Thomas debacle back in the 80s, the O.J. Simpson trial, the L.A. riots, Watergate, which is supposed to be the end all of all political scandals, the Patty Hearst affair, and none of that compares to like the last week. you could
Right.
you could take any one of the things that Trump has called out in the last week and it would bury all of them. It's incredible, isn't it?
It is. It is. Today, even today, what has got transpired and Doge, I had to make my name and say Doge is great because that has been one of the many large stories. And to have I love what Elon Musk's team is doing. I love what Doge is doing, uncover all the corruption. And, US aid it's by all appearances looking like it was absolutely like a Democrat slush fund, which is why they go to the Treasury and having a demonstration there going, open this up and let us in. And they're protesting transparency and
Well,
not accountability to the people. It's it's like unfathomable.
yeah, all they're crying is about process and not about what they've actually done. But before jumping into the Doge thing, I had one factoid to share with you, which I think is just so positive. Then let's jump in a little deeper into the Doge stuff and the US aid thing. Here's the factoid I think is just so fascinating. If you all recall, there was that debate between Trump and Biden when they actually put Biden on stage with Trump, and his performance was so horrendous. It wasn't that Trump performed great. It wouldn't have mattered if the Sesame Seeds character was up there compared to Biden because the guy was so obviously not even there. In spite of that, I'll never forget this. The stat at the end of that debate was that 33% of the population thought that Biden did great. And right then I thought, okay, there's the floor. You will never get more than 67% popularity in this country because 33% are stone crazy. So keep that number in your head. I was kind of shocked. I thought that number would be like 25%. I thought for a long time 25% of the population is completely incapable of reasoning. So it's a little higher than I thought, but 33%, around 30%, right? Then I saw this stat the other day. The Democratic Party approval rating is now at 30%. Pretty much what that percentage was that we saw earlier that thought Biden's performance was sensational. So that just proves you 30% of the population approves of how the Democratic Party is doing. Now, that's a huge positive because that means at least 70% think, at minimum, the Republican Party is better than the Democrat Party. You almost can't get better than that. That is how great Trump is doing right now. So let me stop and your comment on that, Sonny.
I like those numbers. I like those numbers. And that's something to think about. There is going to be 30% of the population that will never, no matter what Trump does for our nation, they will never be happy because it's not their side doing it. And, you know, where Trump is, I don't believe we're in a partisan fight here. We're in a national fight. We're in a fight for our nation and what is best for the nation and the people of our nation. And that is, you know, the beauty of what I see. So I like those numbers. And I hadn't thought, I'm glad that you brought that up because I hadn't looked at it like that, you know, and I know there's always going to be some that are never going to be happy, but 30%. And so that's pretty low for the Democrats, and I'm glad.
It's the historic worst they've ever done since they've been measuring that stat. And I think it can only we can only strengthen the other 70% now, right? Because we
Yeah.
have that what those numbers don't tell you about is how strong, because we all know that the top end 30% of that is super strong. And those are people watching this podcast, for example, right? But you got the rest who I'll call it that percentage of the population that had to be punched in the face.
Yeah.
So the people listening to this podcast, you knew looking at the evidence that the results of the last 4 years is what's going to happen. The rest of them had to have people urinate in their front yard. You know, they had to get carjacked. They had to have their whole city burnt to the ground. They had to have it personally happen to them. They had to have illegals running rampant in their neighborhoods. They had to see the Democratic Party put illegals up in 4 and 5 star hotels while they closed down their parks and ruined
Yes.
their schools. They had to personally have it happen. So that percentage of the population doesn't come to you until they get punched in the face, and they have been gobsmacked. Um, I
Yes,
mean,
they
I
have.
feel bad for them, but they have been gobsmacked. And the good news is, and I've never thought that the American public in general was crazy. We just are a population that needs to get awakened. It reminds me of the entry into World War II. Until the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, people were just asleep at the wheel.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to believe that the concentration camps happened. And there were reports everywhere that it was happening, but it wasn't until our troops went in there and saw it that anyone would believe them. And no one would have believed this stuff that the Democrat Party's been doing until somebody came in and ripped the covers off. No one would believe it. If you told somebody what we're seeing now 4 or 5 years ago, you would be laughed at. And there were people who were saying it. I can't think of it. Glenn Beck. Glenn Beck's been saying it for years.
Oh, yes. Rush Limbaugh, you
Yeah.
know?
And those are guys I respect. And I remember
Yes.
thinking, yeah, they're bad, but I don't know if they're that bad. I remember that. I owe both of those guys a monster apology. 'Cause
Absolutely. You
uh,
know, and they were on what is it? Is it Ron Paul? Ron
yeah,
Paul has been talking, you know, about the Treasury corruption for years.
yeah.
There's been many, many whistleblowers, and they were deemed, you're a conspiracy theorist.
That's the favorite term.
Yes.
Whenever you hear someone use that term, I had this discussion with a lady the other day, by the way. You should like view that as a badge of honor. If you're not a conspiracy theorist, you're crazy because everything that you see around you starts with a conspiracy. You married to your spouse? Well, you conspired to marry him. You live in a house? Well, you conspired to buy it.
Yes.
Conspiracies are a part of life. The only thing you have to decide is whether the conspiracy's got evidence to support it. And clearly, and we'll jump into this Doge stuff in a moment, there's a lot of evidence to support the people that we just talked about
Yeah.
turning out to be right. And now we see the evidence. I was just looking at this thing from USA. What was this? This is classic. Just a few things. 1.5 million to advance DEI in the Serbian workplace. 70,000 for the production of a musical in Ireland. 47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia. 32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru. You can't make this up.
No, you can't. And the list is long of what has transpired and what they've been funding. Talk about earmarked money or the pork spending. And and they're screaming, and these were some of it used for soft coups. They're going, oh, we're going to lose our edge, for soft coups. Well, you might. You'll have to come up with something else, I guess. But some of these things are just bad.
And just
And
maybe we should be doing soft coups anyway. I mean, they just did a soft coup on us.
right, right.
It's yeah.
So I'm just so glad what they are bringing up, and I like what Lori said. Was it? Let me find that statement. She said that it was that or going to the Treasury was closer to an insurrection than the J6.
Oh, it's absolutely. Well, one thing about communists, whatever they accuse you of doing, they're already doing it.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I want to go back to, are you watching the Super Bowl, Eagles or Chiefs? Lori says Eagles or Chiefs.
I don't have a dog in that fight.
I don't either. Okay.
I'm guessing the Chiefs are probably going to win it, though. Not to offend anybody, but um, I'm assuming they're the favorites.
Yeah. So I have no idea. When they started the kneeling thing, I quit watching NFL football. I have no interest anymore.
That's pretty much what happened to me. I've lost track
So
of NBA, NFL.
they lost me, and I'm not going back. There's other things that I do like to do, but that one is not it for me.
Uh,
So there's a lot of things. I'm seeing Lori's comment. She says McConnell needs to go home to his rocking chair. He's fell actually twice today, and went down some stairs, and apparently he's now somebody saw him getting wheeled around in a wheelchair, and I hope he didn't get too severely injured. But I'll tell you, it is time for him to resign, and let's get somebody else in there.
well, here's the thing about it. It kind of points to the sickness of power. Let's just stop for a minute and let's humanize these people for a moment. And try to put yourself in those shoes for a second. So we saw what Feinstein did, right?
Mhm.
What was she in her 90s and in really ill health? The Supreme Court justice, I can't think of her name, who basically, the one who was pro-abortion, um, she was like literally almost dead for like a year and
Right.
just hung around. It just blows your mind like that. You don't see more value in your life that you would just do this till your last breath. It's uh it's really a sad statement on what these people have become as human beings. um
Yeah, and but there is so much, as you said, power. There is power, and it is a sickness. Are they? Why not? People have a hard time letting go of that, I
oh,
suppose. You
we were
know.
talking earlier, Sonny and I were talking about it. It always comes, I keep bringing it back to the parallels between the Lord of the Rings and this stuff, which is fascinating. They're literally like Gollum. I mean, they're going to hold on to that ring until they're shriveled up nothing, because it's power and they can't let go of it. Um, it's just an amazing. Here's a guy who obviously, go live your life. I mean, go enjoy your grandchildren. None of that stuff matters.
Mhm.
None of it matters, because it's all about the power.
So I want to go back to the Doge a minute, because Doge is going to upgrade the U.S. air traffic control system. And I saw that Musk had tweeted, should Doge audit the IRS? Well, heck yes. I think the Department of Government Efficiency is to look at every department, right? I think that's a good thing.
Oh, more certainly. And I just had to touch on for a moment again that that accident that occurred over DC was a classic combination of all the things that the radical left has done. You have the DEI, in terms of them not allowing white men to even take the test. So you eliminated that class of people, which drops the number of people in the pool of applicants. You require a certain type of person and what they look like. There's only so many of them that could even pass a test. Then you lower the standard. Now you have a shortage. And then you force them to get shots, and a whole bunch of people left because of the shots, which reduces the pool even more. Then you look at this flight. I understand it was supposed to be what they have one air traffic controller doing the job of two. The helicopter only had like three, and there's supposed to be four. The captain on it was, let's just say, the classic DEI hire, which and they took down all of her websites as fast as they can before they even identified who she was. And if you paid attention, you realize right away that this probably wasn't the most qualified person. The combination all came together to wipe out what 70 people, and this is the direct result of the Biden administration. There's just no question about it.
Yeah, it is. And so, I'm just glad that that part is Trump is dismantling that as fast as he can. And people and organizations that are not following his executive order are going to be eliminated and fired and whatnot. And I really like that our new transportation secretary, Sean Duffy, is the person who said, Elon Musk has access to the best technological people, the best engineers in the world. And that is, let's look into the whole air traffic control system. And it's a shame that that accident happened. It's a tragedy. And now NTSB has come out and said that the helicopter was at 300 feet when it had a 200-foot lid, hard lid at 200 feet. So it's a shame that accidents happen. And I'm sorry it did, but it also showed the ineptness. I remember when Obama wrote the executive order about the DEI hiring in the air traffic controllers. And I remember thinking to myself going, the air flying is going to become so dangerous because you have to have the most qualified people when you're dealing with public safety in a position, and also have enough of them. Like you said, they only had one, and they were supposed to have two. One person for the helicopter, one person for fixed wing, is what I've read. Mm-hmm. And
well, words have meaning, and objective standards. The refusal to acknowledge them will have implications, and every organization that exists for long understands what its primary mission is. Anything that deviates from the mission will take you away from the mission. So if the mission is air safety, and you make the mission the color of the skin or the gender of the person, those two are going to be in direct conflict with each other. So you have to choose, what is the mission? Is it for people to arrive there safely, or is it for people to look a certain way? And if it's for people to look a certain way, then you're going to have adverse impacts that are a result of that. That's simply the price of doing business. And the same thing, you look at LA. Yes, accidents do happen. And let's go back to the air thing. Accidents do happen, but they happen less often when you follow the rules of engagement and stay in alignment with the mission. Yes. And you look at the thing in LA, the same thing. Yeah, fires will happen. But if you follow the rules of engagement around having the right people following the right standards, you reduce the probability that those accidents, those fires will happen, and reduce the likelihood when they do happen, they will get out of control. So simple things like clearing away the brush, allowing water to flow from the dams, having dams being filled, having the best people in the fire department positions, having fire hydrants with water in them, actually testing your fire hydrants periodically, not leaving town during fire season. These are all like pretty low ass. That's a pretty low bar, I think. And they chose to ignore all of it because they wanted to make things other than the mission most important. Um,
That's the mission though of causing the chaos.
yeah,
Oh,
like
government will fix it. It's causing chaos, and that was another layer of chaos into changing a form of government, which is what I believe the mission is of the World Economic Forum and the whole globalist program. And we've just thrown a huge cog in the wheel of forward movement on that.
and that's Sonny, the unspoken thing. I think even by our politicians at the highest levels, very few people are saying that this is the Democratic Party is doing this on purpose.
Yeah.
At the leadership, at the highest level of leadership, I don't believe those people are stupid. There's no way you do this stuff and expect something. There's no way you take police off the street and expect crime to go down. There's
Right.
no way you don't put water in dams and expect fires to not break out. There's no way that you lower the qualifications and expect air accidents to not happen. They
Mhm.
know this. This is strategic and is done on purpose. There's no way you prosecute parents and keep them from being able to like have a voice in whether a child gets chopped up or not, or whether they can participate in a school board meeting, or throwing old ladies in jail for like peacefully protesting in front of an abortion clinic.
Yeah.
All of that stuff is by design, and all the rest of us need to know that we've been under attack. And most people think, oh, it's China, oh, it's there's some other foreign adversary. Those are secondary adversaries.
Yeah.
Our biggest adversaries is look in the mirror. It's us. It's our ruling elite because this country is too strong to be taken down by the outside. It's got too many natural advantages. The only way this goes down is if we let people in between San Francisco and San Jose, between Washington D.C. and New York, people that live in places with names like Bellevue and Palos Verdes. Um, we let those people run things, and this is what we're going to get. And this is the greatest thing about this is those people, the knuckleheads in the center of the country, the deplorables have come back with a passion, and this is awesome.
It is awesome. So let's talk some more about the shock and awe that's happening. I've got one. Pam Bondi, our new Attorney General, gets sworn in today, and she freezes federal funding for sanctuary cities. I mean,
That
woohoo,
must have
day
jerked.
one.
See, I missed that one. I knew she was in, but I didn't hear about the other part. That's great.
Yes. Yes.
That
So it is shock and awe, and dang it, I'm glad to see it. Donald Trump, when he was campaigning, he vowed to pull funding from cities that refused to cooperate with federal immigration authorities. And so here we are. We've got Pam Bondi, our new Attorney General. Boy, is she smart. Um, and right after being sworn in on the very same day, freezing
that's
funding on for sanctuary cities.
what I wonder if
Now,
we're going to start prosecuting the people who run these cities. That would be next.
I think so. It also has, and her freeze has a directive to clamp down on political weaponization within the agency.
Mm,
So
that-
her day one orders for the new attorney general. I like seeing that. It isn't about retribution and retaliation. It's about bringing um, the rule of law and bringing justice back to the United States.
no, it's justice. It's like saying somebody like so. Let's say you own a store. Somebody breaks in your store and steals something, and then you want to persecute that person for stealing from you. Now you're supposed to be out for revenge, and they can accuse you of being out for revenge. No, you just want justice.
Right,
How about being recompensated for the things the person stole from me? So now you're the bad guy. I
right,
mean,
right.
given the crimes these people have committed, cry out for justice. Um, there just has to be justice. You do the things they've done. There's got to be reaction to that. If there isn't, there's no rule of law.
100%. And so I see Pam says, come for Tina, please. So this says sanctuary cities.
Uh,
We are a sanctuary state. And so that could be a very special case. And I can't wait to see it unfold. because I believe it is unconstitutional.
Mhm.
But I'm not a lawyer. I'm not going to play one here on Captive Audience, but in just my common sense brain, I believe it is unconstitutional and it has never been truly checked. And I think it's going to be truly checked. And the $15 million that Oregon has set aside to Trump proof Oregon, I don't think will be enough money.
Yeah. Well, it's small potatoes in terms of what of the grand theft auto that they've been running on us. But yeah, I do believe that this administration is out looking for a fight, and that's a good thing. And Oregon, please deliver it to them.
Right, right, yeah. And then Lori says, "What will Cash's first act be?" I don't know. We're gonna have to wait and see. And I don't know when his confirmation hearing. I mean, his when they're gonna vote on him. That part I don't know. But it's daily. We're getting somebody new. We've got HUD, a new fellow in charge of HUD, and Trump is busy. The committees are busy getting these people through. Not nearly as fast as has happened for Democrats. But what other shock and awe do we have, Don?
Well, I always thought this is just a factoid that came out of this the FBI and the J6 thing here. FBI revealed that 5,000 out of 13,000 agents were focused on J6. Five was that 40% of the agents were focused on a bunch of peaceful people walking into the White House,
Yeah.
or rather Congress. It's unbelievable. I saw an article, and I don't know if I forwarded this one to you, but it talked about the DOJ training video. So this is how they've changed the department. The department is. We're talking about the ATF, the FBI. Here's how they did it. Firstly, they stopped hiring people or reduced the hiring of people who came from police force or prior military experience. Then what they did, they only hired people who came from colleges. Well, colleges by definition, college graduates are going to be like hardcore left, right? And you can bet your bottom dollar that they came from certain colleges too. So you begin to change the culture of those organizations by recruiting these kinds of people. That was the strategy. So not hiring from traditional sources, and then not requiring testing to get promotions. So you got to be a test requirement. So now the people selecting the people are selecting people who are like them, i.e., college leftists. So when you wonder why people go kick the door down on a family who was out protesting the clinic and put a machine gun in the face of the man and the husband, she's in a nightgown and he's in pajamas, this is who they are. Uh, the people that they had 10, 20 years ago would not have followed that order. Now we got a whole new cadre of people. This is how they've done it. Same thing with the military. You require the shot to stay in. The kinds of people who wouldn't take the shot are the very kinds of people who are most likely to be patriotic. They get rid of them and you replace them with these kinds of people. So this has been all strategic. They also had things in their training videos where they're telling people this is all coming out now.
Mhm.
If people we don't want to hire people who've done things like take an oath. We don't want to hire people who have like a religious background, particularly Christians. Don't want to hire them because you can't trust them. Basically, do what we tell you to do, um, which is a very communist thing. Because in communists, they wanted no competition. That's why they were so. Two things you had to tear down. You had to tear down the family. And you had to tear down religion. Those are the biggest competitions to what they want to do, because if you have some competitor to what you want to do, you can't do what you want. So they want the state to be God. Your only allegiance is to the state.
Yeah.
And that's so they've done that in a micro level with these organizations. So this is how you wind up with the brown shirts and the black shirts under Hitler. You're wondering, Hitler didn't do that stuff by himself. You had to get people who are willing to do it. So that's what this administration has been doing for the last 40 years. They've been quietly building this at an accelerated rate over the last few years. And that's why you see it.
Yeah, I mean, look at under Biden, we're going to hire 86,000 IRS agents.
Wow.
So a little more. The Department of Education is going to investigate 5 universities accused of continuing to allow anti-Semitism.
One of them is Portland State, by the way. Did you catch that?
There we go. Good old Oregon. Let me tell you, good old Oregon.
Yeah, you got to
I
love it. I
live on
mean,
the conservative side that's
so
trying to become part of Idaho, you know?
right, right. Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
then
Go ahead. It's
then we
unbelievable.
go ahead.
I was going to say, so you have the likes of, so Portland State joins the likes of Columbia University. I think it was New York University, Yale, Cal, Berkeley. Now, what does Portland State have different from them? Those are all quote unquote Ivy League schools. And Portland State joins the ranks of the Ivy Leaguers in terms of hating Jews. And that's what they're getting sued for.
Yeah. I truthfully can't fathom that part. Then we're having the over 20,000 federal workers have taken Trump's buyout option so far.
A wonderful thing.
And I believe he's got a hiring freeze in many departments, not necessarily all of them. The CIA presents sweeping buyout offers to its workforce. And it was kind of talk was that a whole lot of FBI agents were going to be fired because they said, we want a list of everybody, that participated in Jan 6. And as you mentioned in the opening, there was 5,000, or did you talk about that? Or was that
I
before?
did. I did.
Yeah.
40% of them. It's like 5,000 out of 13,000
Yeah.
participated in this. It's
Yeah.
insane.
And so apparently those that were just following orders are not going to lose their job. I think that's going to be a case by case kind of looking into,
Yeah, that's
into
problematic.
that. But
Yeah, that's
boy, there's
truly
just a
problematic.
lot happening.
Who else just followed orders? Where else have we heard that before? I think
Right.
that was the defense at Nuremberg. And without exception, the people who used it swung.
Well, you're right. You're absolutely right. And every time I hear the term Nuremberg now, I think of Fauci and what needs to happen. We need to have those types of a trial, even though he was pardoned. There are actually states that are looking to. I'm looking for that story, but there's states. Oh, South Carolina and 16 other state attorney generals are urging Congress to continue the COVID-19 probe so that the states could actually press charges against Fauci for what he did.
Yeah, he needs to be pursued to the ends of the earth. And if not him, at least his minions, because a whole bunch of the minions didn't get those pardons. So they can go after the minions.
Yeah. Yeah. And other countries are going after him too. And quite frankly, there has to be a comeuppance, not a comeuppance. There has to be definite repercussions to these actions of what was perpetrated, not just on America, but on the world. Bill Gates is looking at getting charged, not here in the States, but another country. I remember, I can't think of the country now. And, but that's the type of stuff that has to happen. We have to have the accountability. It is, well, I won't just repeat myself on that. I've got some good news. Argentina has announced the withdrawal from World Health Organization over the COVID lockdown.
Wow.
So there we have President Javier Milei saying, "Nope, we're done." But he
Is,
says that it is. He said COVID-19 lockdowns promoted by the World Health Organization agency could be classified as a crime against humanity.
that is so awesome. Well, we knew that he was going to be on the same side, and nothing's going to make me have more fun than to see Trump in a room with all of these conservative prime ministers. I was just reading, and maybe you just heard this too, is Nayib Bukele. He's the president of El Salvador. He's offered, since Guantanamo is getting kind of full, he's offered his infamous prison system where he's locked up all the criminals down there for the United States to have access to it too. I think that is huge. He's the one who has the 30, I think it houses 30 to 40,000 people in one. It's the most secure prison in the world. He took his crime rate from being the worst in the Western Hemisphere to being one of the safest places ever in a period of like a year.
I think that's great. Also, Guatemala's now jumped on the bandwagon and they said, we will hold the people that you guys are deporting to here, and while they are going to be like in transit to their home nation, because you cannot just kick somebody out of your country. You have to repatriate them to their home nation.
Mhm.
So Guatemala, and it's going, you know what? It's cheaper to hold them in Guatemala. I'll bet you the wage in Guatemala is maybe $6 a day.
Right,
Could be
right.
seven.
Yeah.
It was in the 2000, or like in the end of the 90s and early 2000s. That's what it was. I
Oh,
remember when I don't know where I was. Colombia was $5 and $6 a day.
mhm.
Panama was about $5 an hour. And so Guatemala is going to be right down low like that too, I would guess. I could be wrong, but
Right.
it costs a lot less to hold them down there than it is up here. Trust me. And I like what they're doing with Guantanamo,
Or
expanding Guantanamo Bay to hold the worst of the worst.
and there's also the CCOT in El Salvador. I'm a big fan. Any of those people hear about that, they'll be glad to leave the country on their own rather than go there.
Yeah, I
Because
would
that
not
place is
want to
no
be in a
joke.
prison down there at all.
Oh, wow, we're talking it's concrete. No pillow, no bedding, no
Yeah.
nothing. Like 5 to a cell, concrete. That's what you get.
Wow.
Um,
Wow, wow, wow. Wow, wow, wow. Yeah, we're here we go. You've got human rights violations. They've got to have a television and a phone to call their people. And, you know, um, sad to say, I heard a story about somebody who had been in a jail in the Grand Caymans.
mhm,
And
mhm.
the inmate, or not the inmate, the guard would come in the morning with a fire hose and just turn the fire hose on them in their cell. And the guys are going,
Yeah, that's
no,
pretty
no,
much it.
no, no, no. And he goes, hey, man, jail's not supposed to be fun, man. And, you want to deter these people. And I don't know.
Yeah, that's not some place you want to go.
No, 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 no.
Yeah, well, I wasn't reading what they did. Now, granted, they suspended habeas corpus and all of this stuff, but their crime rate in El Salvador was
Oh,
so
yes.
bad that there was no other way to do it. And they had those mobsters who have the tattoos from head to toe, so you know who they are. I mean, they got the teardrops. If you got teardrops, if you murder somebody, so anybody who had that, they just arrested them, and crime went to like
Yeah.
zero. And if your situation's desperate enough, then you know that's what you have to do. And you have to ask yourself in certain cities, in certain places in the United States, is it coming to that? If your local law enforcement is unwilling or unable, i.e., Multnomah
Right.
County, LA County, we know the counties, Pierce County, uh, maybe that's what needs to happen. It's not unprecedented.
No, no, it isn't. No, it isn't. I've got a story here, changing the tune just a little bit. It's
Mhm.
a story out of Epic Times. I'll post it here, and it is about self deportations are up there, and the crossings are plummeting. And
Mhm.
and in Arizona, they have really changed a few, despite they've got a Democrat governor. The legislators have, been doing some fighting against the illegals, which I'm really happy to see. And the mayor of
Mhm.
Yuma, I don't know if you've ever been to Yuma, Arizona, but it's not a very big town.
I've been to El Centro. That's as close as I've
Okay,
gotten.
I know it's not very far away, and
Uh,
he says that the border crossings, this is today. He says the border crossings near his city have continued to decline since President Trump declared a national emergency on January 20th. For the last 4 days, very specifically in the last 4 days, we haven't had any transfers from the San Diego or Tucson sector, which had been happening daily or near daily for the last several months. So that's like huge. That's a huge drop. And
Well, I tell you.
In this story, he talks about Yuma Healthcare. Nichols also, his name is Nichols. Douglas Nichols is the Yuma mayor. He noted that Yuma's healthcare and agriculture sectors have faced financial challenges due to the illegal border crossings. One local hospital incurred an estimated $26 million in costs for illegal care and has yet to be reimbursed. And there was in December of 22, the Yuma County Board of Supervisors, along with the mayor, declared a countywide state of emergency due to the large number of illegal immigrants gathered on the U.S. side of the border. And that was a good thing because that allowed them to get some help. And they have estimated that the impact on agriculture, and it's not for, oh gosh, they needed people to pick lettuce, but was a hit of $4 billion in Yuma County. $4 billion. And it's because of the illegals, it says, defecating and urinating on the farms where they're growing lettuce. A lot of lettuce is grown out there, especially in the winter. And then it makes the crop useless. They have to just destroy it. And they're urinating in the irrigation ditches and all that kind of thing. They've got, and they rely on a 50,000 person migrant workforce is required to harvest. They're not having a problem with the labor part. It's with they've been forced. That's so bad. Here you have, I know the area. They would have your lettuce grown. Now they've had to put fences up around them to stop the people from being able to get into the fields. And it's not to eat it, it's for the damage that they're causing because there's strict, rules about all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to fence your lettuce in.
Man, you don't have to worry about what was it, Farmer McGregor and the rabbits that were eating the lettuce. It's not the rabbits. Not the rabbits anymore. It makes me think about the argument you constantly hear from the left all the time. Every time we try to do something around stopping illegal immigration, it's stuff like, and it sounds so racist, but they say it anyway. Who's gonna pick your grapes and who's gonna pick your lettuce? That kind of stuff. Which, on the face of it, I can't believe you would say such a thing, but they say it anyway because the leftists are telling you what they really think of brown people when they say those kinds of things. So who's gonna pick your? So the prices of food are going to go up. This is the argument they always make. So the prices of food are going to, it costs so much. You can't get Americans to do that kind of work. We've all heard that stuff before. They never look at the other side of the ledger. So, they pay more in taxes than they take out. So the crime, what does it cost for that? The pressure on the school system and the foreign languages, what is the cost of that? You start adding up the costs associated with the housing, what is the cost of that? The food stamps and all that other stuff, you start adding this, there is no way that they're bringing in more than they're taking out. That's just a ridiculous and insane argument to make. Think about the cost and the other hidden costs, like now you got to pay more for security systems in your home. Now people got cameras in their home. Now you got to have more police officers. Now you got to buy more personal weapons. If you got a brain, you're doing that. It's all of those costs.
It is. So the good news that I mentioned about in Arizona was there's a new state law that passed by 65% in November. 65% of the voters passed Proposition 314, and the measure that new law makes it a state crime for non-citizens to enter Arizona from any location other than a port of entry, and it allows which allows state and local police to make arrests. And now state agencies must now check an individual's immigration status via the E-Verify program before allowing enrollment in financial aid programs or public welfare. That's what has to happen all across the United States.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can't make
And I
it
think it will begin to
comfortable
start
for
happening.
them to live here.
Right, right. No, exactly. Exactly. And I think all the right things are being put
Yeah.
into place. And this is going to go faster than we thought. We just have to stay diligent and attack this from strategic places, which means things like USAID have got to go. You got to gut these places of the civils, the unelected officials, and the unelected individuals will keep this stuff going. So even when you win, like Trump did the last time
Mhm.
around, you're fighting uphill against people that are supposed to be following your
Yes.
orders. Um, and that's one of the reasons why I'm so thrilled with what's happening this time around, because we're going to the strategic source of the problem. You can't just go to tactics. You got to go to the strategic. So the person who follows you won't have to fight the same battle over again.
100%. So I have a couple other stories that I would like to talk about regarding Oregon, our awful sanctuary state, Oregon. You know, it's a beautiful state. We live in it's a beautiful state, but the politics, not so much. So we talked about last Friday was the clean truck rule. They had a hearing. I believe it was last Friday. Well, the hearing is gone, and people responded like overwhelmingly, 4-1, that they were supportive of the rule to put a pause. Okay. They don't support having the electric vehicles, electric trucks and that. So Rep Ed Deal has had issued a statement, and I don't know if Kevin covered it yesterday, but I wanted to make sure that that we did, and let me get it copied here. No, it's not. It's not cooperating with me. There we go. And that he's asking us to keep the pressure on, with talking to your legislatures, and um, that you're not supportive of this clean truck rule debate. Please contact your representatives and tell them you are not supportive of this. We're supportive of the bill that would put a pause on that, and that people would like to, the fight's not over on that. Now,
Mhm.
tomorrow is a hearing. This is a hearing alert. Let me post this one in here because it is going to be about estate taxes. And the hearing is tomorrow at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So I'm posting an article about it. In the article are links, but I'm also going to post the Oregon State Legislature link that has all the information of when the hearing is, and also that you can submit testimony. There's a link on the link, the one that I just posted, that has the OLIS on there. That one, at the very bottom of that, it has a submit public testimony at the very bottom. And so this hearing is tomorrow. And what it will do, it will extend the property tax incentives benefit program and an exemption. So the two things, it's funny because it says it's a state tax cut, House Bill 2301. So House Bill 2301 is going to be heard at 3 o'clock, and it allows an additional estate tax exclusion of $7 million, where currently I believe it is at 1 million. Yes, it's at $1 million, and this would up it to $7 million. And please vote yes on House Bill 2301. This is why people lose property, because in our state we have a death tax and estate tax. And so if you have an estate of, if this passes, up to $7 million. That's $7 million you would be exempt. But if your estate is larger, there's $7 million that would be exempt. So the tax burden would be less, and we have a lot in our state, century farms, farms that have been passed on for multi generations. I know fifth generation farmers, fourth generation farmers in my area, and it's very difficult to pass those farms on when and this will help our farmers actually, but it helps everybody.
Mhm. Yeah, not only that, it's just theft.
It is.
It's just the government stealing from families is what it is. They try to pass it off as, oh, it's not fair for, someone to inherit these things. But the reality is when you do that, you take away the one of the partial incentives for people to do things is to be able to pass things on to their children. If you take that incentive away, what you're really incentivizing is for them to just be frivolous. And their being frivolous does not benefit society. Passing along a functional farm helps feed us, for crying out loud. But that's not how these Marxists see it. It's all about 100% of the time, it's about power and envy, and the two go together.
Yes, absolutely. And Lori makes a good comment that when you comment on these hearings, submit testimony, it becomes part of the record, which is very important. If they only hear from one side, which is not our side,
Mhm.
that's bad. They need to hear our perspective that yes, we support this or no, we don't support it. It's very important for the public people to be engaged in our government. The days of, well, they'll just take care of it, are over. We have to be engaged and we have to have our voices heard, because our voices, there's statistics, I can't tell you exactly what they are, but for every letter they receive, that carries a certain weight. For every phone call they receive, that carries a certain weight in testimony. And it's just important. We have to be part of the process to keep our republic and to make our state better.
And sadly enough, as we've seen over the last 4 years, these people aren't, a lot of them aren't incentivized at all by doing the right thing. They're incentivized by staying in office. I mean, that's just how it is, right? And a lot of them will lick their thumb and stick it in the wind to see which way to vote. If it sounds like it's better, this voting this way is going to keep me in office, then that's what they're going to do.
Yeah. And, like this article that is from the Oregon Catalyst, it says the word is out nationwide that Oregon's a terrible place to die or retire because, in part, our state has such a high estate tax. And it does. I personally know Oregonians, born lifelong Oregonians, that have moved out of the state because of the death tax and estate tax. And they're not willing to give that up, that their children would not be able to afford to pass something on. And that's a good thing. And it's sad that, in fact, a particular couple I know, they said, we don't want to leave, but we've got to do what's best for our family. They love Oregon, and I could,
Right. Yeah. Well, the radicals, they always pick the most beautiful places to live. That's just what they do. And the three most beautiful states, in my humble opinion anyway, are the ones that border the Pacific. And the arguably fourth one would be Hawaii, which is in the Pacific.
yes,
But these are precisely the places they come. And these are the most left wing states in the country. And it's not even the states, it's their cities, because the rest of the states are
yeah,
fine. Um, so the bad news is it's the way that it is. The good news is if we concentrate our efforts in just a few counties, we can swing this thing. I mean, most of these states are, and Oregon's one of them. The vast majority of Oregon's red.
yes.
You got about three counties to deal with, and those three counties are moving more and more purple too. By the way, because they've been punched in the
Yeah, they
face.
are. They are. So, the legislature is going to be convening, and it's or have convened, I should say. Sorry about that. And this is the time that we have to pay attention to bills and have our voices heard on them. And as I learn about them, I'll be bringing them to you. Lori Shaw is also talking about Ben Edel. He has end vote by mail, a petition that right now are gathering signatures for to end the vote by mail here in Oregon. There are three petitioners on there. Ben Edel is one of them. And I'm going to
Hmm.
say, I don't have the link, but I'm going to say it's endvotebymail.com. And
Hmm.
that is a good thing. He is still in the, I just heard somebody speak on this last night, that or Tuesday night.
Hmm.
Sorry. Yeah, last night. Today's Wednesday. The days are flying for me there, Don. Um,
I hear you. Then you got to ask yourself which
it's
Wednesday.
Wednesday. It's the first Wednesday of February. I'm looking at my calendar up there. And so that they're gathering the signatures for the first 1,000, and then that they have to qualify with 1,000 signatures, and then after it's that, so you can go to endvotebymail.com, probably download, just search for the End Vote by Mail. If I'm not giving you the right email address, I will do better on Friday, I promise. But you
Well,
can
I,
search it, you can print a petition and sign it and send it in, because once they have the qualifying signatures, then it's going to go to your, that has to go to the Secretary of State, and then it would, they need to gather 200,000 or just over 200,000 signatures. It's a huge feat, but they have this year and next year, and it'll be due sometime in 2026 to, or 2027, I should say. No, 25. I think they want it on the 26th, the general election, which would be the governor's election. So it will end sometime in 2026. So it's a big feat, if you know, if anybody signed the Recall Kate Brown, but to my knowledge, there isn't anybody running a faux petition, which is what wrecked the recall of Kate Brown program twice, because somebody ran another petition and people thought, oh, I signed the one petition. And it was a bogus effect. It was designed that way. You know, we have,
they're so
I'll
slick.
tell you, it, yes, there, Don, we have to
They're
fight at
so
every
slick.
level.
Uh, yeah, you have to be willing to. I don't know if you have to play dirty, but you got to think dirty. I mean, you have to look at what they've done and say to yourself, okay, to think through the possibilities and know that they will do
Yeah,
anything. Um,
yeah.
you know, and yeah, getting rid of vote by mail would be monumental achievement. I mean, you look at the level of cheating that they've done with that system.
Yes.
Um,
So Pat Finley says, didn't Oregon start vote by mail? Yes, Oregon started it. They've shown the other states how to cheat. And if you have to go in person and show an ID, that, yeah, okay, gee whiz, vote by mail so convenient, right? But it's cheating. We have to have honest elections. And so you can't make vote by mail cheat proof. You need to have in person on paper and counted the same day. You know, there's things that have to happen, and so I would go and look at this in vote by mail, and frankly, I think that's a good thing. I think it's a good thing.
well, there's a couple other things about that too, about the voting in person that are kind of these hidden benefits. You know, one of them is is people going out in public, showing their civic, they're exercising their civic duty with their fellow citizens. We lose citizenship when people sit at home and look at the computer and look at their phone and don't interact. We're losing, and another version of that word civic is civility. So we lose civility, we lose the civic atmosphere that we had. I remember my parents going down to the school. They'd have my older siblings watch the little ones, and they would walk down to the public school, and they'd go in. And sometimes I was old enough, I'd go down there with them, push you in the stroller, and you watch them go pull the curtain, and that's a memory. I mean, that's what grown-ups are supposed to do. And I saw that as a kid. Oh, when I grow up, I get to do that, right? So we lose that. On top of the ability uh, of the fact that you're willing to make the effort to
Yeah.
do that. If you don't want to make the effort to do that, you don't care
Yeah.
enough. Um, no, I'm generally speaking, but generally speaking, if you're willing to make that effort, you thought about it and you're willing to go do it. And one of the things the left has made us think with all of their marketing is that it's a bad thing that 100% of the people don't vote. No, I don't think it's a good thing that 100% of the people don't vote because 100% of the people don't care or they're not thinking or they're nefarious. 100% of people
Right.
shouldn't vote. How about the people that have a stake in it?
Yes.
Those are the ones who should be voting in the first place. And it's just too easy to dupe it with this vote by mail, as we've seen.
Yeah.
So 100%. Now, for those who are disabled or whatever, obviously you set
Yes.
aside situations and make sure that's not bulletproof either. But at least you minimize the size of the cheating
Yes.
capability. Um,
I
but you got to recognize right up front if you leave a hole, they will turn. If you leave a pinhole, they will create a gaping hole that a running back can run through because that's the nature of the enemy.
You're absolutely right. I want to address Pat Finley says, what if it weren't went by social security numbers? Well, let me tell you, Pat, if you didn't know already, even Medicare doesn't go by social security numbers anymore because there's so much
The
corruption in
cheating.
that. They have issued people that are, are now applying for social security, and you get a Medicare card, you get a new number. They are not using social security numbers anymore. The only agents, anyway. So that's my take on it, anyway.
No, the level of sophistication with just the cheat. And this has nothing to do with bankruptcy, with voting. But I think it was about 10 years ago they broke into some system, and I was out like $10,000 in a tax return for like it took 11 months to get it back, and that happened to I think millions of
Yes.
people in Washington
Yes.
State. And I think they like several hundred million or something wound up in Nigeria that the state of Washington never collected. So, yeah, I mean, eventually, we got my personal money back. The citizens did, but the government, which is the rest of us, never got back the several hundred million that just walked out the door. So
Yeah. Cards your
you have
stuff.
to
I would
realize that.
rather give them a government ID, a government issue
Yeah,
ID, and there we are. So, oh, I had some illegal try to use my social security for unemployment in California. I had to prove my identity. Oh, but there you are. So you see, that's why you
uh,
don't use a social security number to vote by. I mean, I mean that's a government issue, but it's not doesn't have your picture on it. And yeah, there's
yeah.
so much fraud. Anyway, hey, you guys, Dawn.
Is it really 5 after 7?
Yes, sir. So it's thank you everybody for being
Unbelievable.
with us. Share the message. Don't keep it all to yourself. And we appreciate all of the feedback and the back and forth very, very much. And I'll be back on Friday.
Keep on winning.
Absolutely.